In the 80s, there were a lot of sci-fi and fantasy movies soaring to the big screen. Worlds of wonder and fantastical things were aplenty at the theater. But what would happen when one movie decided it wanted to be both a fantasy film and a sci-fi film? Throw in the coolest fidget spinner ever and you have a hit, right? Well, maybe not. But we're here to prove to you that Krull is not that bad. Welcome one and all to It's Not That Bad, the podcast that looks for A great and B movies. And I have to admit that when we started this podcast, there were a few movies that mentally I had put on my list of movies that needed to be defended. And we are now here to discuss one of those films because we are talking about 1983's Krull. And here to defend a movie from my childhood is the woman of my dreams, my lovely wife, Carrie. Carrie, how are you doing?
Aw. You changed it up.
I did. Well, I didn't want it to feel like, hit the auto fill button there, but no.
It's because I called you out on it, isn't it?
Might be, maybe. Now, okay, so I have to admit that growing up, this film, when it was on First Choice Super Channel, like those movie channels back in the day, I watched it ad nauseum. I had the book. I wish I had the glaive. So when I mentioned this movie to you, what were your thoughts on Krull? Had you ever seen it before we watched it for this show?
Okay, I admit 40 years later.
Also, this film is 40 years old.
I saw it for the first time last night. Keeping in mind, okay, I'm not going to say how old I was, but I could count on one hand how old I was when it was released. So are you feeling old yet? With that said, so seeing it for the first time last night, with an open mind and an open bag of potato chips.
The popcorn was actually popped. We actually had popcorn for this. It was good. But it's funny. This is one of those movies where I'm not going to lie. Going into it, I was a little trepidatious because there are things from our childhood that we hold in high regard as like the coolest ever. And then when you go back and watch it, X number of years later, you sit there and go, my God, I was a stupid kid. And I was worried that this movie was going to be one of those. Like, I know going into the Gem and the Holograms episode,
AKA Gem.
Right. You were a little trepidatious. But the thing is, that wasn't, it wasn't a direct remake of the original cartoon, but even going back to watching those old cartoons from your heyday, from your growing up days, going back and watching it, was it a bit of a shock as to why did you think it was that good?
For Gem?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But then, also the Smurfs, which is iconic, and that love for the tiny 2 apple high blue
3
people.
apple high.
3 apples high. I love my Smurfs.
Don't de-apple our Smurfs here.
Well, 5 foot nothing. Everyone's taller than I am, even the Smurfs. For Gem and the Holograms, for sure. Rewatching the cartoons, I was like, okay. Yeah. Good times.
Yeah. Also on Tubi, by the way, I kind of had this thing too. Like growing up, I used to watch Mask, the Mobile Armored Strike Command, like that cartoon. And that cartoon is now on Tubi as well. And I remember going back and like, oh, cool, Mask is on. And then I watched a few episodes. I'm like, what smoke was I cracking when I was a kid to think that this was cool?
What was I thinking?
Right? I have no problem sitting there saying, yeah, I'll go back and watch an 80s Transformer cartoon any day of the week. I'll even go back and watch G.I. Joe. There are certain cartoons I'll go back and watch, no matter what. Yeah, Mask was not one of them. But I was worried about that with Krull because I remember being so enamored with this film. Like the fact that I had the book as well, like, it was cool. And then you were like, oh, it qualifies. Okay, we're going to defend it. Oh, what if it's not as cool as I remember? And that was the mindset going into it.
And I'm here to ask you, did it deliver?
Well, you know what? Before we get into that.
Oh, he won't answer the question, friends.
Well,
I'm curious now.
We have the crowd that's, brimming with anticipation. Rocky Horror fans are now sitting there going, I approve.
Yes.
I approve. But before we determine whether Krull lived up to my young childhood hype, it's time to take this 1983 sci-fi fantasy epic and trailerize it.
Krull. It is a world of knights and warriors, princesses and wizards, of noblemen on mighty steeds. The only thing missing is an alien horde that screeches worse than Starscream, led by a demon lord with a serious case of pink eye. Ken Marshall is Colwyn, a dashing warrior who must race to save his bride-to-be Lissa from the Beast, a monster so generic they didn't even bother giving it a name. In his quest, he'll use the glaive, the bastard love child of a ninja throwing star and a fidget spinner, but he'll only use it once, thereby making it as used as the average modern-day fidget spinner. Grab your swords and spears. It's time to storm the fortress in Krull. Rated PG for Precious Glaive.
How many times did I say glaive during that whole thing? Like, this was one of the things, right? The glaive is one of the coolest weapons in sci-fi and fantasy films, in my opinion, of all time.
I would say you said it as many times as he tried to use the Jedi Force to release it from being stuck in that gooey substance. I don't know.
Which is about 3 times, I think. But I mean, there's the thing though, right? Like back in the day, you could always tell it was either you had the coolest ship or you had the coolest weapon. Not every film got to be Star Wars and have the coolest ship and the coolest weapon, but the glaive was so iconic. Like, it was even in Ready Player One when that movie came out. Like that's how much of an icon of 80s cinema that one weapon is. The rest of the movie, most people will be like, oh, Krull, there were aliens and guy with a sword, but there was the glaive.
Was it not one and the same though? From the opening sequence, was it not a ship flying through the sky, or was it?
So that was the Black Fortress, and
not to scale.
not to scale. No, that was the Black Fortress, and the Black Fortress came to Krull to conquer the planet, and then it would magically appear and disappear into different parts. So for a ship that has teleportation power, apparently they have to fly their coach to get to the planet. But yeah, exactly. Oh, there's a few things where we have to sit there and go, there was an easier way to write around this.
I clearly needed the Coles Notes version or to have read the book.
I think I still have the novel kicking around somewhere, like at the adapted to screen, actually written by Alan Dean Foster. So it's possible I still have that. But let's get into who's in this film. This film stars Ken Marshall, Lizette Anthony, Freddie Jones, Alan Armstrong, a young Liam Neeson, a younger Robbie Coltrane, Bernard Bresslaw, David Batley, and John Welsh. It should be noted, though, that Lizette Anthony's voice was actually overdubbed by Lindsay Krause, and apparently for a more American accent. And Robbie Coltrane's voice was also overdubbed by Michael Alvik, but it's funny, he actually nailed Robbie Coltrane.
Was it?
Yes, apparently,
Mind blown.
According to IMDb, right? This film is directed by Peter Yates. It's actually the only fantasy film he's ever directed. He also directed Bullet, by the way. This film, however, did get some acclaim. At the Saturn Awards that year, it was nominated for Best Fantasy Film. It lost to Something Wicked This Way Comes. James Horner, who was the score composer for this film, was nominated 3 times that year at the Saturn Awards for Best Music from a Film. It was this, and then it was Something Wicked This Way Comes. Both of those lost to his eventual win for Brainstorm. So it's like, spin the wheel, you have 3 chances to win, James Horner. This is, Krull was not the one he won for, even though I think the score is actually quite epic in this. I was actually really enjoying the music. Also, Anthony Mendelsohn was nominated for Best Costumes for this movie. He lost to Return of the Jedi. At the Avoriaz International Fantastic Film Festival, Peter Yates was nominated for the grand prize that year, did not win. However, this film, Krull, Piece of My Childhood, won the Worst Picture Award at the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards in 1983. So,
what was it up against?
I know Porky's 2 was one of them. Like, in looking at the list, I'm like, Krull is so much better than all of these. Not in a bad movie way, but in a good movie way. Like, I don't know how you have a film that's nominated for Best Fantasy Film at the Saturn Awards, admittedly not win, but then win the Worst Picture Award at the Stinkers, which, I don't know. Part of it might have been the budget.
Could it also not have been the ridiculousness of...
I mean, I don't know if I'd call it ridiculousness per se.
That's a great word, by the way. Good word usage.
It is good word usage.
It's gooder word usage.
Your Englishifying is much better, much gooder. But I mean, okay, let's call this out right now before we get to the budget and the critic score, because this will kind of lead into this. Yes, this film is very much almost cut and paste from the hero's journey. The hero's journey, of course, being, the standard of storytelling that so many fantasy and sci-fi films have taken in order to be able to write their script. I mean, Star Wars is the hero's journey. You could take a look at Legend as being the hero's journey. Like, this is definitely the hero's journey. Like, almost cookie cutter, like, remove template name, add, name with no vowels. That's kind of how it feels. And yes, some critics and some tradespeople at the time basically called this Excalibur meets Star Wars, and they're not wrong in that. It does feel almost like they took a look at the films that did well in both genres, said, okay, we're going to take a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, and Frankenstein it together into one movie and, make it a quest. It's formulaic.
Do you know what it made me think of? Is Robin Hood...
Men in Tights?
Men in Tights, yes.
I'm so glad you said that, because it hit my mind too.
Oh my God.
Yep.
Get out of my head.
We're men in tights.
But you know what? And that's, I think, part of the charm of it is that, sure, it could have been a quest movie.
Mm-hmm. Which it was.
Taken very seriously. No, but...
It's a quest with a MacGuffin.
Fun. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the thing. It's a quest. You use the MacGuffin to finish the quest. You get the girl. You save the day. It's, it's
Princess Bride.
To a point.
Not as much.
Not as much. I mean, yes, the Men in Tights reference. Ken Marshall kind of reminds me of Carrie Elways in Robin Hood Men in Tights. So that's exactly. Yeah. I mean, yes, I can see a bit of the Princess Bride as far as the quest goes. There's a few other movies that come to mind, like Clash of the Titans. Clash of the Titans is very much a, solo adventurer gains companions along the way in order to, get a MacGuffin that will help slay the beast and save the day so he can get the girl and save her from the... Yeah, like it's...
Rinse, repeat. It's formulaic.
Exactly. But there's also something very comfortable in that formula. That's why these films constantly get made. But that being said, at the time, this was a very expensive film to make. Remember, these are 1983 numbers. Okay? 40 years old this year. Film had a budget of $47 million. With only a worldwide gross of $16 million. So big money loser, especially in 1983 dollars. When it debuted on the July 29th, 1983 weekend, it debuted at number 4, according to Box Office Mojo, with under $6 million take, about $5.5 million. That's number 4. Debuting at number 1 that weekend was National Lampoon's Vacation. And number 2 was Jaws 3D. And at number 3, in its 10th week in the theaters, was Star Wars Return of the Jedi. Also debuting, by the way, that weekend was Private School. That debuted at number 6 with $4.4 million. But over at the old critic shop here, this film has a Metascore of 45, and at Rotten Tomatoes, it has an audience score of 52%, which kind of falls in the line with the fact that it's become a bit of a cult classic, but the tomatometer is actually 30%. And you're probably looking at me like, that's higher than you expected it to be. But of those numbers, just initially, 30%, 52%, which one do you relate to more before we get into the breakdown?
I agree with the audience. I think it was sitting around a solid 50.
Mm-hmm. Like it's not a bad film by any stretch of the imagination.
No, it depends, I think, on your expectation going into it.
Mm-hmm. And there's the thing too, like this is the kind of film where if you're a kid and you don't pick apart movies like some basement idiots do.
Critics.
Mm-hmm. Or basement idiots like us. It's a cool film. It's a really cool film when you're a kid.
I would have loved for our boys to have watched it. They refused, by the way. They,
Yeah.
They declined.
Our boys have no cinematic taste whatsoever. They'll be like, yeah, we're going to watch a movie for our podcast.
Oh, you did. They're going to listen to this one, and they're going to be like, Dad? I'm going to play it. I'm going to play it for them.
Oh, you are, aren't
Noted.
you? Oh, well, next time you sit down and you watch the Krull with us, okay? And then we'll see what you think of it.
My price? Concert tickets.
Yeah, their price, popcorn. That's the only way they'll get to watch a movie with us. You want to come watch a movie with us? Will there be popcorn? No? See you, bye. That's pretty much the way the boys go.
That's exactly how it goes.
It is. It's so bad. Okay, so let's get to the breakdown of this film. We love you kids. We really do. But
we just have to bribe you to spend
exactly.
time with us.
We will feed you one kernel every 5 minutes to get you through the entire movie. That's how much popcorn you get.
Ration the popcorn.
Might work. Might work. Be cheaper at the theaters, that's for sure.
We'll get them to use a spoon.
Because it hurts more.
Chopsticks.
Can you imagine trying to do popcorn chopsticks, especially once you get the butter on them too and all that?
That would be brilliant. Thank you, She-Hulk.
Yeah. Okay.
The cheesy idea was absolutely brilliant.
Oh, it absolutely was. Unless you're clumsy with the chopsticks, then you're breaking every cheesy in half. Also, thanks, She-Hulk, but yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder how She-Hulk didn't completely smash the...
Do you think She-Hulk gets pissed off with herself when she can't actually work the chopsticks to get the cheesy, and then Hulks out because she can't get the cheesy with the chopsticks?
Well, it was before she was She-Hulk.
So. Yeah, I know, but try it now. Okay, so let's get to the breakdown of this film. We digress here. Ken Marshall, who played Colwyn, the hero of the film, how was he for you?
You know what? I thought he was, I don't know, he was okay. He was obviously, he caught the eye of the princess. But I didn't find that he was really all that special,
It's a tad ineffectual. A little tepid.
I mean, you know what, though? To his credit, he was an excellent fighter, which would apparently make him a bad husband. But he did go through quite a lot to save his newly-wed wife. So... I just have to say, though, it's like a full-scale invasion on your wedding day. That's ironic.
Don't you think?
Thanks, Alanis.
I mean, here's the thing. He is almost the picture perfect person of what an 80s swashbuckling hero would look like. Right?
I agree.
He's got the beard, he's got the flow with the hair, and the shirt's open to show off the chest hair. Like he looks like
and
your
the
typical.
abs.
Oh, yeah. Well, he actually apparently trained quite a bit for this, including horse riding and fencing, and tried to pattern his portrayal of Colwyn after Errol Flynn. And you really see a lot of that, especially when the Slayers first attack the castle and they take Lissa away. He clearly put in the work. He did. And, and going back, and again, this is where like the fear of the rewatch comes in, where it's like, I loved this film as a kid. Oh crap, I'm going to dissect it now, and I'm probably not going to like it as much as I did. We'll get there in a bit. But there's the part where he breaks down because Lissa's gone and the old man's about to leave him behind because, there's the line that Ynir says, it's, I came to find a king. I found nothing but a child. And it's like a little overacty there. But through the whole thing, there's a swagger to Colwyn. And it's not like he's very much in this film, Saturday morning swashbuckling. You could see this portrayal almost in like the old black and white serials of like the old like Flash Gordon that they used to have at the theaters. Like, it's a classic cinema performance in a modern day fantasy sci-fi film. And I think if you go into it thinking, like the old Flash Gordon serials, you're going to see a really good inspiration out of this. It's like a swashbuckling Flash Gordon, and I kind of don't hate that on this.
I agree. I agree. I think he did well with it.
It's for the genre, it makes sense. Like you could see him with that look being tapped to do like more romantic drama films in the 80s, like that kind of stuff. But he brought a very debonair air to Colwyn, and given the sweeping orchestra and the landscape and the grandioseness of the concept of the storyline and the setting that they've placed the world of Krull in, he kind of fits it well. We kind of joked a little bit about Carrie Elways, but I really didn't hate Ken Marshall in this as Colwyn. Let's move on to Lysette Anthony, who of course played Lissa. Now, by the way, if the name Lysette Anthony doesn't ring a bell to you, I'm going to make a very Canadian reference here because we are a Canadian podcast. But if you want to know who Lysette Anthony is, you need to go to the music videos of Bryan Adams back in the Reckless days, because she's the girl in Summer of '69. She's the girl in Heaven. She's the girl in Run to You. So yeah, Lysette Anthony was a video girl for Bryan Adams in like 84 and 85.
That's awesome.
Right? Canadian represent here. I have thoughts on Lissa, but I want to hear what you thought about Lysette Anthony first.
I thought she was adorable. Oh my God, I absolutely love her hair.
Right?
Yeah, no, she was so great. Like, I just thought she was, she was so great. She was just so engaging as the princess.
Yeah, I mean, she's stunning in the role, right? But I have issues with the role.
Oh.
And none of them are Lysette Anthony's fault. And for the record, in interviews that she has given since this movie has come out, and things that she has said about the role in the making of the film, I think she agrees with me too. So hopefully she does. But hear me out on this one here. You have this film coming out the same year as Return of the Jedi, where you got Princess Leia, who is one of the most badass female movie characters of all time.
Agreed.
Helping lead the raid party on the forest moon of Endor, right? Kicking ass and taking names in a metal bikini on Jabba's palace ship, right? Like, Princess Leia is awesome. And here you have Lissa, who at first I'm like, okay, cool. So she is defying her father's wishes in choosing to marry Colwyn because she knows that the union between the two armies will be able to rise up against the Slayers. And even when trying to flee, she's making sure that her guards have swords and all to fight this. Like at first, I'm like, okay, yes, it's a bit more of a, almost like a medieval themed type world kind of thing where everything is very knights and princesses and all that kind of stuff. But they straight up damseled her. Like I
disagree
there. No. Hear me out on this one here. Okay. Like she could have done so much more to fight the beast instead of just running through endless cool looking corridors. And even her arguments with the beast, of when Colwyn is being tempted by, the changeling that is sent to sway him and try to tempt him. They could have given her so much to do. Give her a much more badass, strong character, because it felt
they did.
Okay, I want to hear your take on this, because I know Lizette Anthony. One of the things she has said about this film is that she felt like her character wasn't given enough to do. Okay,
first of all, they didn't damsel her because she was a strong, independent woman. Although she was a princess,
once she was captured, she damseled.
Okay, but let's start from start. She defied her father's wishes and married the man that she wanted to marry.
Try to marry.
Okay, effectively they did. It was just interrupted. Thanks, opposing army of
Slayers.
Yeah. However, I think that seeing the vision of her newlywed husband
of Colwyn, yep,
in the arms of another woman, she was strong, and she was strong and confident enough to know that it was just a vision and it was just a trick. It was meant to upset her or to try and crush her love for him. It didn't. And she held her own. She held her own even in spite of, if you have like a manipulative monster trying to mind you, she held her own, and good on her.
But what was it with films in the 80s where demonic looking creatures tried to get the girl? Because the same thing happened in Legend. Darkness wanted Lily. The Beast wants Lissa.
Even from the scene where he does go and save her, she's still very much she's not oh, my prince. She's still very strong.
Yeah. I guess the thing too is that, let's compare it to Legend. And yes, I recognize the Legend came out 2 years after this film, but let's compare it to Legend for a second here. In that Darkness sought Lily because of loneliness, and, it wasn't to try to take over the world. The Beast seemingly wanted, Lissa's reasons. There seemed to be no rhyme or reason why the Slayers would kidnap Lissa to begin with, and then it's the Beast going, "You will be mine." Give us a more backstory. What is it about Lissa that makes the Beast want her to marry her? What is it about the Beast that needs a companion like this? To my understanding, and again, it's been a long time since I read the book, and they didn't really cover it in the film. So the Black Fortress shows up. The Slayers branch out, kill everyone that they can, take over the world, and they move on. Sure, okay. What? Does he take a wife on every planet? Is this, is he trying to take Lissa for his own because of the power that she may have in being able to take the fire from the water and give it to her? What's going on? I need more. And I don't think Lissa was flushed out enough beyond beautiful princess who is going to marry her husband. Yes, you are right in that, at first, Lissa is very strong. The second half of the film does her no favors.
I do agree that I would have liked to have seen her fight a bit more. But, I mean, that aside, she also doesn't want to die, right? So I think being a princess and knowing that you have guards, and as long as you're making sure they're armed, which she did, I think the role was perfectly suited. As far as why her, would it maybe not to take over the kingdom? Is that not? But
then the question is, are there no women on Colwyn's side of the planet? I get reasons, I understand it, but I mean, let's be honest. Aside from the widow of the Web and the occasional or the many wives of Liam Neeson in this, we don't really see many female characters. So, I mean, I guess maybe royalty, whatever the case may be. And we also don't know how long the Black Fortress has been on Krull at this point in time, because all we see is the Black Fortress landed, and then all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, we got to get married because we need to combine the armies and fight the Slayers. So, it kind of skips a little bit of backstory there. Let's move on to Freddie Jones as Ynir, the old man who comes down from the hill to help Krull find his way to the Black Fortress. How was Freddie Jones for you?
He was good. He was so, what an enjoyable actor. He played it very well.
I mean, he's very much the Obi-Wan in this film. You're going to hear a lot of Star Wars references because Star Wars and Krull are very much cut from the same hero's journey cloth. I love Freddie Jones in this. I think he's great.
How was he all-knowing, though?
Well, I mean, there's the thing, right? This is why I mentioned that, in talking about Lissa, that the Black Fortress just comes down. We don't know how long the Black Fortress has been there, so we don't know if the Slayers and the Beast know about the political hierarchy of the different kingdoms on Krull. Ynir comes down from the mountain, apparently. This is what Krull says. This is what Colwyn says. Because he saw the fight, he saw it was time for him to find the king and to go to the Black Fortress and stop the Slayers and save Krull, the planet. And, he knows a lot about them. He seemingly knows a lot, period. But there's no, all they tell him is he's the old man from the mountain. So it's, how long have the Slayers been there?
Why did he not rescue his wife? He just left her there.
Okay.
He took the time and ran.
Okay. So I actually have an answer for this one there.
Okay.
He didn't save her. She saved him. Let me explain. Okay. So, by the way, movie's 40 years old. So, spoilers if you haven't figured that one out already. But, so when Ynir goes to see the Widow of the Web, whose name is also Lissa, so now we know where Batman versus Superman got that plot hole from. The spider is trying to get Ynir before he can make it to the Widow. So she turns the time, the time sands over. So the spider cannot move when the sands are falling. He makes it to her home in the web before the last sands fall. The spider can't get him. He's safe there, right? So when she breaks the hourglass and pours the sand into Ynir's hands, so long as the sands are falling, the spider cannot hurt him. So she gives him the sands, knowing that the spider will then attack her once he leaves. So she actually saves him by giving him the sands. But the thing is, by taking the sand in his hand, the last sand in his hand, once it falls, also means his life. So in essence, she saved him, not he saved her. She helped him help Colwyn stop the Slayers. So basically, she's very critical in their reasoning in order to be able to get to the Black Fortress. Now, that being said, apparently in an early draft of the script, Colwyn comes in to actually save Ynir from the spider by using the glaive, but that scene apparently was removed, meaning we only got the one-time usage of the glaive. So originally, I guess there was more to that scene, but he really was like super, super sweet in that scene. Like to see the pain on his face, knowing that he had to, here's the widow of the web telling him that they had a child, she had to get rid of the child, and her punishment was to be trapped by this spider.
Okay. Side note, that spider was creepy AF.
Oh, but the thing is, if you were a fan of movies like Clash of the Titans, like it's a very Ray Harryhausen-esque kind of stop motion animation. It was creepy as hell, and I freaking loved it.
And if you have arachnophobia, do not watch this movie.
Oh, absolutely. Like, I loved Clash of the Titans growing up. I absolutely did. It is and still is one of my favorite classic 80s films of all time. I'm pretty sure I think it came out in 1980. Like, I loved that film and watched that film over and over again on Super Channel and First Choice. God bless our movie networks. But this was very much akin to that Ray Harryhausen-esque giant monster stop motion animation, dealing with actual live actors. It was so cool, and it's designed so well, and it's a very creepy scene.
It was horrific. Like, I don't have issues with spiders, but I swear if I ever saw that thing coming at me, yeah.
Well,
I'd run.
It also doesn't help that like the little mandibles are also twitching kind of thing, and it's almost
it was transparent.
Yeah, exactly. Well, translucent, but yes, it's creepy. I love it. Since we're talking about that scene, let's talk about Francesca Annis, who is the widow of the web. It's a small role, it's a small part, very critical to the plot line, however. But how was she for you?
It was touching to hear her story, and I wanted to see her saved. Why then did she have to stay? Like,
well, the thing
that part
is,
I don't understand.
Okay, so let me explain. I love with these fantasy sci-fi movies, like, why did this happen? Let me explain. So the reason why she was trapped by the spider, doomed for eternity to sit in that web, in that little web home, was she had a child with Ynir. And out of anger towards Ynir, she killed the child. Her punishment in doing so was to be basically isolated from the rest of the world, trapped by this giant spider, never to leave the web. So she was the widow of the web. She acted out of anger against the child. It's a little harsh.
It's very, very harsh. For a kid's movie?
Yeah. And the thing is,
that's some...
Yeah, it's PG. It's not even PG-13.
That's some heavy content.
Yeah, but I think it's not like it was, anything graphic. We're not talking House of the Dragon here. We're not talking Game of Thrones. But you had darker fantasy films coming out around this time. Like, there was a stretch of them, like Legend, can also be considered a dark fantasy film. You had The Dark Crystal. You had The Secret of Nim. You had these, fantastical films that didn't shy away from darkness motivated plot lines and motivations. Like, it was a much more mature film and a much more almost seemingly mature audience for that film. But yes, on violence and zero coarse language whatsoever, it's a PG film. It's safe for kids because they're not going to think about those kind of issues as they're watching the film. They just care about big giant spider. So I get it, but it also shows a maturity in the writing, at least as far as the motivations of Ynir and the Widow of the Web. But let's move on to Alan Armstrong, who played Torquil, the leader of the thieves. How was he for you?
Yeah, you know what? All the actors were so wonderful. I really went into it with no expectations, so there was nothing glaring, but What do you think?
I mean, I like the fact that they didn't have the thieves as one of those, once a thief, always a thief kind of mentalities. They weren't trying to sabotage Colwyn. It's almost like it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. So they all know that the Slayers need to be stopped. They all know that the Black Fortress is the home of the beast. They all know the scourge that now sits upon Krull. And here's the new king, because he's got the necklace, right? And he's offering them freedom. He's offering them trust. He's offering them, a real life, as opposed to wearing their shackles and, knowing forever that they would be known as thieves. I almost liked the nobility of Torquil. At no point was there any of this, I'm going to kill you, I'm going to let you die, I'm not going to help you. No, he was along for the ride. He was along to save the planet because the planet is the bigger issue, and saving Krull from the Slayers, trumped any kind of malice that they may hold against the king, Colwyn's father, for imprisoning them. But then you also have, the band of ragtag thieves, which for the most part, it's, like scruffy looking nerf herders kind of thing. Yeah, I made another Star Wars reference. Sorry. But in that scruffy group of nerf herders, you had a very young Liam Neeson and a very young Robbie Coltrane. So Liam Neeson is Keegan. How was he for you?
He was great. He was a lot of fun.
I will say that as we're watching this film, Carrie leans over to me. She's like, how is Liam Neeson getting better with age?
You did.
I straight up outed you on this one.
Out.
Right? For the record.
But it's true.
He's going to find you and he's going to thank you.
I don't know, like you would tend to think that youth would be more endearing, but no.
Nah.
Better with age.
He is a fine wine of a man, let me tell you. but I mean, like, there's the thing though, like, you can see a swagger in Keegan. He's has unabashedly multiple wives. He's a traveling man, right? Like, he's a rapscallion.
But I think that was perfect for him to play that role.
Oh, he's an endearing rapscallion, but it's not like he's a lech. He's not like, oh, here's another town, here's another one of my. No, he's part of the crew. He's doing something noble and trying to stop the Slayers. And he does, I think, genuinely love each and every single one of his wives, because he does treat them very well. Like, he's very kind to them. He's very, very endeared to them. At least that's the part of Keegan that we see. It
was just the forerunner to Sister Wives. That douche with 20 wives?
Yeah, and no. Traveling man. But then you get Robbie Coltrane.
Oh.
As Rune.
He was cute. You know what? I mean, as soon as I saw him and heard him, which, by the way, if that was voiced by another actor, then wow. Yeah. Mind blown. But he was really cute.
But I wonder if Robbie Coltrane's accent was a little too thick at the time. But I will say this, and it's kind of funny watching this movie in hindsight, right? Because it's almost that you can see him workshopping what would become Hagrid in this role.
Well, I mean, he had a horrible mustache. Horrible mustache. Oh my God. Could have done away with the mustache. And a really bad haircut.
That is 80s chic right there, girl.
Like, okay, I'm sorry, but if they're a traveling band of thieves or, scallions or, I don't know, ruffians, right? Who's like maintaining his due? Because his hair was freshly shaven every scene he's in. And I'm like, I'm not buying it.
He looked like he could have been like security for Kid and Play.
Right.
Oh, Hagrid. I don't know. But I mean, I know they got sharp blades, so clearly they're doing their own haircuts there.
I was so sad though when he met his demise.
Yeah, I mean,
not fair.
I will say that the characters that did die in this, not the Slayers, but the main characters that had died, each of them, when it was their time, it felt like the right time for them to die. And it felt like a noble death for each and every one of them.
Except for the aged gentleman.
Yeah,
He did nothing. He did nothing to deserve it. He was just sitting there and then, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Wolverine there, Clawman.
So that was a changeling.
Clearly.
Okay, so since we're there, let's talk John Welsh, who was the seer in this. By the way, this was his final film. And it's not a big role, but it's definitely one of those. I find it interesting, and I again, this is nothing against the actor. This is more of the writing. So you have the seer who's able to kind of see where the Black Fortress is going to be. Spoiler alert, he doesn't last long. But if Ynir is supposed to be the old man from the mountain, what do they need the seer for? It's an interesting take too when the changeling comes in, kills the seer, then basically becomes the seer in order to be able to get Colwyn away from the group so he can try and kill Colwyn. So it's an interesting little play in the quest of things. It did feel a little overdone, like almost another person that you didn't need to introduce, just another step along the way. But I didn't mind him in this.
Who was the thief that at one point Colin was walking with his hand on?
Oh, that was Torquil, Alan Armstrong, the leader of the.
I just have to say, what incredible kindness. It really struck me, that one scene where he relieved Colin and started leading him along. You know, it was like, wow, you know, like until that moment, that actor had absolutely no, he wasn't on my radar at all. He was kind of like just a background.
Yeah, he even though he was the leader of the thieves, he hadn't really stood out for you at that point, until that point.
Right, but just displaying that genuine kindness was really cool. Made him stand out.
Two more characters I want to bring up here. Okay, the first one is David Batley as Ergo the Magnificent.
Oh, I love him.
Short in stature, tall in power, narrow of purpose, and wide of vision. How was Ergo the Magnificent for you?
I loved when he turned into a beagle. I loved when he turned into a
tiny little pig?
Lion?
Oh, the tiger, yes.
The tiger, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what, though? His character made me think Monty Python.
Oh my God! Thank God you said that, because I actually have it written down here.
I promise I didn't read his notes.
It feels like the role was written for Michael Palin.
It was very.
It was very Monty Python-esque. Yeah, I mean, I do appreciate that in a dark fantasy film, which this kind of wanted it to be. You need comic relief. You know, like, again, going back to Legend. By the way, if you haven't listened to our Legend episode, please, by all means, go back and listen to that one. You had, Billy Barty as as one of the trolls, and a little bit of comic relief there. And you need a breather. Otherwise, it's just all action and doom and gloom. You need a laugh. I mean, this is Avengers 101 here. You need a laugh in all the action and all the doom and gloom, and Ergo the Magnificent was definitely that. It felt very Monty Python-esque, which I find funny, because the reason why apparently they had Lisette Anthony's voice overdubbed was that they felt, apparently, according to IMDb, that an unknown American actress would go over better in the box office than a British actress. So that's apparently why they overdubbed her voice. I don't see why. I don't. I think she was wonderful, but you have a very British Ergo the Magnificent in this, but it fits well. It does. And then you have Bernard Bresslaw, who was the Cyclops. Now, first things first, the makeup for the Cyclops was so well done.
It was. I found myself wondering, like, where's his eyes? How does the actor see
right
out of what would be, I guess, prosthetics, the mask. I don't know.
Yeah, like it's all practical makeup. The fact that the eye is blinking and the mouth is like the Cyclops looks freaking cool, right? And it helps even more the portrayal of the Cyclops by Bernard Bresslaw, like a very stoic performance, like very much I'm a solitary character doomed to walk this world alone, being made a Cyclops after a failed deal with the Beast from my people. Like this is a deep character, and goes to his fate bravely and boldly. And this is one of the reasons why this film, I think, stuck with me, is that you had characters like the Cyclops that didn't just feel like bad makeup and puppets. Like, it's cool.
It was well done, for sure.
But of course, that part of that goes to the production design team. Mm-hmm. This needs to be pointed out. This film, while you may have, notes about the story, the sets are phenomenal, especially like the castle set. Like the set work of 80s films, like fantasy films, movie makers today should be going back and watching those movies and saying, wow, the sets look great. How do we do those? Oh, I don't know. Maybe make a set rather than green screening everything. Like it stands the test of time, those sets and those scenes and the location shooting and even the very cool kind of matte painting set designs that they had for the Beast lair within the Black Fortress. Visually, it's stunning. I mean, we could talk a little bit about the special effects, quote unquote special effects, the fire in the hand and stuff like that. I mean, that's the 80s.
The quicksand was horrific, though.
Right? Because, again, practical effects, right? Like, that's a whole lot of wood sawdust and water kind of thing. Like, when you don't have a computer to help you, you had to do it the old-fashioned way, the real way.
Hence the budget.
Yeah, $47 million in 1983. Yeah, I mean, did it lose money? Yes, it did. That's why we didn't get a Krull 2, right? But the film looked phenomenal. The production team did a very good job. The productions, the costume, the makeup, everything.
So what came first, the book or the movie based on the book?
The book is based on the movie. It's a novel based on the movie written by Alan Dean Foster. So yeah, it's one of those, by the way. And then we get to the glaive. The glaive. The coolest thing about this movie is the glaive. That little five-pronged ninja throwing star that someone made at home when they were a kid with like the popsicle sticks sharpened on the brick wall at the school kind of thing. So they had 5 points. The glaive. And then they threw it and maybe stabbed a friend with it. I don't know. Wasn't me. But I mean, ooh, in the pantheon of fantastical movie MacGuffins, like, does the glaive stand out to you as a cool thing, or is this just, boys like sharp, pointy things?
Did they ever make a toy?
I don't remember if they ever made a toy glaive, and I was looking it up, and I'm sure people have made like replicas of it today, kind of thing. But I mean, I remember like this was one of the coolest. I mean, the entire marketing of this film was based on the Beast and the glaive. Like that, they knew exactly what they were doing with the marketing on this. The Black Fortress with like the Beast's face kind of as the side of the fortress, and the glaive like as part of the title treatment. Like it's so cool. And maybe it's a boy thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just one of those guy things that guys want to have the weapons from the movies. He says as he has a Darth Vader replica lightsaber at home. I'm guilty. I'm guilty. And I guarantee you, if I had a glaive, it'd be up on the wall, not being used as a fidget spinner with really sharp, pointy things.
I just have to add that it's not a boy thing. I have the Mace Windu lightsaber. Thank you very much.
And that's why I have the coolest wife.
Not a boy thing.
That's why I have the coolest wife. Although, if we get a glaive, it's mine.
I also have wands.
Many wands.
Harry Potter wand.
Yep. With a pointy stick.
I need a Hagrid umbrella.
We'll get there. We'll get there. We may or may not be building our house into a movie memorabilia store. I'm just saying. Okay, it's come time. So, Carrie, who is your MVP of 1983's Krull?
I gotta go with the Magnificent.
Oh, really?
Yes. He played it so well. He was so funny.
David Batley.
He was so, you know what? He was just a joy to watch. He made this movie so enjoyable. And not that the other actors didn't. I really wanted to pick Mr. Robbie Coltrane. I really did. But
it's the mustache.
His character was sadly underused.
I mean,
I would have liked to have seen more.
Now, I wonder if you wanted to see more just because he is Hagrid. That's the thing.
Yes, absolutely 1,000%. Yes.
Okay. So
Yep.
we know where our motivations are.
Yep.
Okay.
More Hagrid.
Okay. Just repeat after me. Short in stature, tall in power, narrow of purpose, and wide of vision.
Sorry, you wanted me to repeat that?
Well, that's why I have the notes that you clearly didn't look at.
I mean, I can totally appreciate the short in stature.
Okay. But yes, David Batley is Urgo the Magnificent, your MVP.
He was brilliant.
Not my MVP.
Who?
My MVP, and you can probably figure this out by now from the way I've talked about him, was Freddie Jones as Ynir, the old man down from the valley, like the Obi-Wan of the film. Like, yeah, Kim Marshall was good for what he did. You know, Lizette Anthony was good in what she did, given the role that she had in the second half of the film. It's Ynir for me. It's as the guide, as the almost the driving purpose, as the moral compass for Colwyn. Ynir made things happen, and I think it's also the scene too with the Widow of the Web, right? To see the pain, to see the forgiveness, and to, you know, accept the sacrifice from his widow in order to be able to tell Colwyn where the Black Fortress is. And his character really had a full arc, like a full, true, genuine arc. And, you know, again, Obi-Wan, right? Obi-Wan died to make sure that Luke could save the day. Ynir died to make sure that Colwyn could save the day. It is, again, the hero's journey to a T. Carrie, thank you.
Wait.
Uh-oh.
You are not off the hook that easy, sir.
I tried.
I know. And now I'm calling you out, man.
Uh-oh.
Okay.
Squirrel.
The rewatch versus a young Jason watching this movie as a child.
Ugh.
Go.
All right. It makes sense to me why this film resonated with me so much back in the day. It's fantastical. It's got cool weapons. It's got, I mean, the Slayers, you have to agree with me, the Slayers do look cool and have much better aim than stormtroopers. They actually killed people. The rewatch, as my, given also what I do for a living, which is I am a video editor, it takes some of the magic out of it. But I would put this up there with the 1980 Flash Gordon film, in that Flash, in that, yes, it's a little camp. Yes, it's a little formulaic. But damn if I don't still enjoy it. Right? It's still the swashbuckling adventure that I remember as a kid. I can't unsee the bad special effects in this day and age. But because most of it is practical, and because most of it is done through camera trickery as opposed to, you know, relying on, you know, bad, you know, yeah, the green screen kind of shows a little too, not going to lie. But I can overlook bad, shoddy 1980s green screen. I can, because the matte paintings, the set design were so well done to begin with. It looks like a 1983 film, but I still appreciate it. Even if I do see the flaws, but I embrace the flaws, if that makes sense. It hasn't lost its luster. I can safely say that. Am I going to go watch this every night? No. But if it's on, I'm going to sit down and watch it. And, I don't know if it's the kind of movie our kids would sit down and watch.
Sadly, no.
But I also don't see it being a movie they would beg us to turn off. It'd be like, oh, you guys are doing that? Okay, you can go ahead and watch that. It's not like they'd be coming in and seeing us watch some, rom-com type films. Like, oh, they're kissing. Turn it off. Carrie, thank you so much for joining me on this trip down amnesia lane for me. By the way, if you want to watch Krull, I don't know if it's on any streaming site, so you're going to have to find a way to watch it, but it is definitely worthwhile watching. We actually watched it because we're in Canada. It's currently on demand from Hollywood Suite, so if you can get that subscription service, by all means, definitely do that. Until next time, you guys know the drill. If there is a movie out there that is unfairly maligned or you think is so bad that there's no way in heck that we can find anything good to say about it, hit us up on Twitter at NotThatBadCast, or head over to our website at NotThatBadCast.com. Let us know, drop us a line, and we will watch it, we will dissect it, and we will find the good things to say, because we are looking for those A grades in B movies. Until next time, she's Carrie, I'm Jay. You guys are awesome. This is It's Not That Bad. Take care.
Hey folks, Stefan Shirazi and Renee Richardson here from the Metallica Report.
And we are proud members of the Pantheon podcast family, where the best of music and podcasts unite.
We've got something pretty cool for you. We're giving away an exclusive Metallica merch package worth over $250.
That's a whole lot of Scary Guys, skulls, M72, and other sought-after Metallica swag. And we've made it easy for you to win. Follow and share the Metallica Report, and you're in the game. Go to pantheonpodcast.com/Metallica, enter your email, and hit that button to be entered to win.
And just like that, you're eligible for our monthly exclusive Metallica merch package.
And guess what, rockers? You can enter every month, so just do it. And while we love our global brothers and sisters, the lawyers won't let us ship outside the U.S.